All right. Um, Before we get going too far, I wanted to follow up on something I was asked yesterday about. Um, do you have a favorite pulp era artist? And the question was more directed um, to sci-fi pulp guys, I think. But I have this book on pulp art, and there's a bunch of great stuff in here. And I want to just point out a couple guys. Um, okay, on your this the spider web thing here is Rafael de Soto, and I guess they're both Rafael de Soto. And I like this one here. You can see the gals in the diner, and there's a guy with a gun and handcuffs hanging off of his wrist, and he's forcing her to dump some rat poison in the cup of coffee. And there's the cop out there in the diner waiting for his cup of coffee. And so there's like this complete story going on, that she doesn't want to do this, but she's being forced to do it, and he's obviously an escaped convict of some sort, and what will happen? But you've got uh, that entire narrative going on in just in one picture. It's not, a guy with a gun, um, and you go, well, what's it about? Um, and like even but I had a better example of it, or not necessarily a better one, but one I really like. And oh, anyway, the cover um, is it's either Rafael de Soto or George Rosen or one of those guys, anyways. Um, but I love the whole narrative there. The girl is driving the motorcycle and shooting a gun. The guy is clutching a bunch of money. He's holding a gun. He's got this nasty expression on his face. You know these are both bad guys, but you also know she's the top in this relationship because he's riding in the sidecar. He's not shooting. You know, she's in charge of this. He's not a nice guy, but he's also not the boss of this outfit. And so there's this whole narrative that's very um, it just communicates a lot, and you look at it, and it always leaves you going, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And that is illustration at its absolute finest, especially for a book cover. Not so much for an interior could be more explicit, like this happened. Okay, you could have that at the end of the chapter where you already read it and you saw that happened. And here's a nice picture of what just happened. But on the front cover, you want to say, what's going to happen? I've got to find out, so you buy the magazine and take it home. And I think those ones are the best. As for my aesthetics, we were talking about sci-fi. I was dressing the girl up in a sci-fi, spacesuit thing. Um, I think I look more to some of the comic book guys like Wally Wood and Al Williamson. Um, And again, I was not particularly aware of these guys during their heyday. I became aware of them later, but I think they're the best that there is in terms. And I love that space the way it's supposed to look type of thing is something those guys are probably absolutely the best at. Sissy says, girl power or boss babe, as they call it these days. Is that what they call it these days? I don't get out much. But yeah, it was fun. Fun stuff. So there's not a terrible amount of narrative in my work, generally speaking, because it didn't start life that way. It started life in life drawing class, and so it's not There wasn't really a story going on. There was just somebody posing, and that's just still what it looks like for the most part. So, but the ones that I take to a place where there is a feeling of a narrative, there is a feeling of something happening. That tends to be the ones that I like the best. I think they were most successful. Um, it hasn't got to be a really involved story like some of the ones I just showed you. I'm not doing right now. I'm not illustrating magazines or anything. Uh, maybe someday I'll feel like doing that sort of thing again, and I'll go put it out there. But right at the moment, I don't feel like it. I should have mentioned before I just jumped in there and did that. Um, these slabs of rock that this girl's sitting on, you're looking down at them. And then I'd done this pottery with the perspective in the opposite direction. So it's like they were angled away while the rocks are angled forwards and they didn't match. So that's the first thing I focused on when I pulled this paper out. I was like, oh, this is nice. Ooh, no, I can't do that. And so I got to jump in there and correct that. So it looks like you're looking down on top of the pottery. Fortunately, just a few little shifts get it done. I don't know what this place is that she's hanging out in, but it's seen better days. It's a rumbling room. There's a point that I get to sometimes when I'm drawing something like this, and I'm starting to do costumes or whatever. There'll be stuff that came out kind of nice, and I like it, and I get a little bit reluctant to do something else because I start thinking maybe I should be leaving it right like it is, and sometimes I just continue to feel that way. Much later I'll look at it again and say, yeah, it was good to stop there. That's as far as I want to take that. And other times, if I just put it away for a while, I'll get over that feeling and want to go ahead and do something more finished. So this one, it was perfectly okay to put it away and come back to it later. And then I was kind of like, yeah, okay, I can get past that and add more stuff to it. She doesn't get to spend her life looking just like this. I have, after all, got a great big gigantic stack of paint of drawings, and I can keep going. I can put one away. It's not like this is the only thing I get to work on. Bracelets, of course, we'll give her bracelets. We'll give her shoes. Shoes are another thing that, just like the judge, they've got they're a cylinder or a cup shape that has you can see down into it, or if it's tilted away from you, you can't see down into it, but you'll see the bottom of the shoe. Oops. You'll see the bottom of the shoe like that. So I just drew some Christmas elf boots. Um, so Sharon says mausoleum. It could, yeah, it could be a mausoleum. Um, oh, you said she's smooth like a sculpture, and I'm not trying to be morbid. Oh, it's interesting. I did, yeah, I hadn't thought of her like that. I had thought that she had a sort of a classical Greek look, the curly hair, and actually her profile kind of looks. I don't know. I don't know if Greek is right. Maybe Etruscan or something. But yeah, no, we're just gonna throw her into this Gilead's World place because because that's what we want. I I had posted a picture of a woman in a full suit of armor. She had a shield and she had the articulated shoulder plates and a coat of chainmail and arm guards and stuff. And I posted it on a bunch of my other threads, and somebody's, well, the chainmail wraps around so you can see the shape of her boots. And, some woman had to correct me that that wouldn't happen. That armor hangs on a woman just exactly the way it hangs on a man because reality. And because, uh, sometimes you can get a little annoyed when little children are telling you how the world works, and you just want to go, "Shut up! I was gawking at girls in chainmail before you were even born." But it made me wonder she's how she phrased her complaint made it sound a little bit like she thought she would know, like maybe she's in the SCA or something of that sort. So I went and looked at her profile, and it doesn't appear that she's into anything like that. It appears that she protests everything she sees. She finds a social injustice or an inequality or an oppression or a something in everything. Uh, I get those comments. I get them from time to time, like, "You've clearly never seen a real woman naked before," or something. And I'm like, guess they think I drew a boob wrong or, you know, something. Speaking of being a juvenile, were we speaking of that? I knew this girl in high school. I can't remember her name. She was like a friend of a friend, a circle of friends over from my circle of friends. But ran into her from time to time, hung out in some of the same places. And she, I always thought that she was one of those poor kids that uh, was too smart. She was like 9 years old and was smart enough to be graduating high school, so her parents put her in high school. And I just felt sorry for her because she's like 9 years old, and she looked like a 9 year old and sounded like a 9 year old and was shaped like a 9 year old. And it was like, I just felt that's just wrong, making her go and hang out at high school with a bunch of older kids. And then finally somebody told me, no, she's our age. She just looks like that. And then I felt more sorry for her, and I thought, oh man, that sucks. That's just wrong. But what do I know? So we went to our 10-year high school reunion, and she was there, and she looked exactly the same. She was 9 years old, and not that the rest of us looked ancient by that time, but 10-year reunion, you still look pretty good. But she looked nine, and I felt sorry for her. And she seemed happy enough, I guess. But we went to our 20-year reunion, and we were sitting at a table, and this woman walks up, and she's tall, and she's got big boobs and big hips and children, and and she and she somebody says, Gil, do you remember her? And I said, no. and and she she told me who she was, and I was, oh my God, and I normally don't have any tact anyways, but I was in rare form that day, and I just kind of stammered, and I kind of looked at her boobs and looked up at her, and I went, what, and and then the best I could come out, I kind of stammered, and I said, when? And long story short, too late. She said she basically went through puberty when she was 30 years old, which was about 2 years after our previous reunion. And then she grew up, and, and I felt kind of sorry for her, but it was like, wow. And then I realized after a while that I've got no business feeling sorry for this woman, because I've always felt that um, emotionally I was her equivalent. I think basically I was emotionally a 12-year-old until I turned 30, and I skipped all the points in between. Um, it's just like later in the year of being 30 years old, I could look back and go, man, this thing that just happened, I couldn't have handled that last year, right? It's just like I had the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old just like last year, but now I'm okay with this, and this is, I don't know, it was a weird little. I had like a mental puberty at 30, and a lot of things changed in my brain, not in my body. I was, you know, I've just been a horny teenage, 12-year-old from the time I was 12 until then, and then everything progressed normally from that point on, or so I thought. Now I thought lately that maybe I'm kidding myself. Um, maybe at age 30 I mentally progressed to age 16 or something and froze there. because I sometimes feel like I sometimes feel like I'm not as mature as people that I know. Like, yeah, like I don't handle things like an adult, and I don't. But at this age, it hardly matters. And I think this thing that I've been doing, all these drawings and trying to, self-consciously trying to be Frank Rosetta and things like that. It's just like um, I was talking to another guy in a different group, and he said, I've been doing the same thing. And he said, it's like the big thing to him when he was a young teenager was Conan the Barbarian, the books, the comic books. At that point, he's younger than me, so at that point in time, there were lots of comic books. There were lots of action figures. The movies were already out, and so he was like, and the role playing games and stuff like that. And so he's like, yeah, I'm just going back to uh, to all that stuff. And between the two of us, we came up with the expression uh, rehyborionating. So we're both kind of rehyborionating and going back to the Hyborian age of being a teenager, and just go back to all the things that you thought were cool um, when you were young and stupid. And I think it's pretty much what I'm doing. Just going back to that. So this piece of cloth I put on her, it's kind of has that Greek sort of look. I wonder if they really dress that way, or it's just how the art shows them. And maybe they had a really prolific juvenile artist like me back then, making all these statues and painted vases and everything. Maybe the Greeks are going around going, why do you guys paint people like that? Nobody dresses like that. People are going to dig these up 1,000 years from now and think we actually look like this. They probably wore suits and ties. Sharon says that is bizarre. I'm not sure what's bizarre. I should have looked sooner. Um, my mentality is bizarre, probably. My mentality, or the girl I knew in high school, or the lady that was complaining about the suit of armor. People are strange when they're strangers. Oh, a 30-year-old having a growth spurt. Yeah, I looked it up once, and she's not alone in the world. Article I read said something like it was not that uncommon for puberty to happen anywhere between 9 and 18 years old, or something. That was still a range that I wouldn't expect. Like, and not at 9, and certainly long before 18. But yeah, she's the only human I know that's had a physical growth spurt that late in life. I kept holding out for one. I thought, oh, I'm gonna have that last growth spurt, when I'm 18, maybe 19. 19 could happen. I'll grow 6 inches taller and get big and muscular and stuff. And that didn't happen. Maybe I ate the wrong kind of breakfast cereal. Sissy says it makes me laugh when you look at comments from a few thought jumps away, trying to figure out which story that one went with. Yeah, that's it's a lot better when I can hear people's comments. If we could do this via Zoom instead, uh, I might keep up. I might keep up. It says, no. Hate to be one of those guys that always measures himself by what he used to was. Um, but I used to was a factory worker, and one of the aspects of that, there were lots of things that had numbers, like series numbers and stuff like that. So, uh, if you worked in a department, you made this type of window. It's got all these parts. It's got the top piece and the bottom piece and the left and the right, and then that's just for the slider window, and then the fixed vent had the top and the bottom. And you learned all the die numbers for all those things so that you could order new ones, and then the vinyl and stuff like that. And so in the glass sizes, and you knew like all the measurements. You could walk up and whip your tape measure out and just measure something. And go, "Oh, that's wrong," and stuff like that. And Plus the employee numbers, I knew all everybody's employee number, and people will be asking me all day long. It's like I need to order some of this stuff. What's the die number on that? And I tell them, and then somebody say, "What's so and so's employee number? I need to put him in for his vacation time." I tell them that. Yeah, I'd just be walking along with all these numbers, and I haven't had any kind of work like that in decades, and it's amazing to me that my mind was ever like that because it doesn't seem like my mind could be like that. I can't like my phone number and my wife's phone number are like the only two numbers I know, and I can't even when somebody asks me my social security, I have to stop and think about it. I don't think that's senility. I think it's just the fact that it doesn't come up. Those numbers were things we had to use every single day, and now I don't have to do that. Used to fill out forms all the time, and like job applications. I haven't done that in 30 years, so I don't know. I just don't use that information anymore. It just goes away. I half think she's done. I'd like. I talk about the triangular composition, and that works really well for book covers. I know this isn't a book cover, but there's still part of me that says that's good. And if I put something over here, I might just spoil it. This broken piece of masonry here doesn't work for me. I kind of want to get rid of that. Um, but I don't know. I sort of. There's a big piece of empty space here. I haven't quite decided what I want to do about it. Possibly foliage. Does that work? Um, yeah, I think that could work. Broken masonry kind of suggests she could be outdoors. That's all the bright lights I put on her. Uh, Says she's out in the sunlight. She looks like she's basking in the sun. So yeah, she could just be outside. Do that. So that could still work without, it's without violating that overall overall shape. And I have a comment. I wouldn't put anything in the top right corner. I think that would make it too heavy on that side visually. Top right. Yes, I agree. I think that which I scribbled in, which is just a line charcoal, it will scribble right back out. I think that's about as much as I want to do. And otherwise, I think it's kind of cool. I like it. I liked it before, and kind of half thought it needed to just be left alone. But what I've done is, to my mind, not terribly intrusive. I think it doesn't functionally alter her terribly, and just kind of gives her more of a setting. So cool. Yeah, I like it. Somebody needs to mow the lawn around this place, but the slab she's sitting on still draws a lot of attention because it's so bright. Is it too bright? I'll be able to sell that better if I can stand back and look at it. This sparkly white chalk that I'm using sometimes is dull from one angle, and when you move around it, it like, picks up the light from the overhead and suddenly it just lights up, uh, which is one of the beauties of pastel, but it also is what makes pastel things so goddamn fragile because you could bump into the paper and stuff sprinkles down off of it, and you've changed the look of it permanently. Um, that's probably about it for today. Today's Thursday. I don't think there's anything significant about today at all. That was yesterday. And tomorrow is very likely to be Friday, and I should probably be back. And so I will see you then. Thank you for coming. Have a good night.